Ah, the Mario No Coins Challenge. What good fun. It's like a No Starbits challenge except slightly more universal. So universal, in fact, that at this point there has been a No Coins Challenge video made for just about every Mario game in existence. And here I am, a challenge-based YouTube channel that only managed to snatch up one No Coins Challenge before they had all been done. But perhaps we've all been overlooking something. For if coins are worthy of avoidance, then perhaps another object in the Mushroom Kingdom also ought to be avoided. An object which one could say is merely another side of the same coin. The brick block. These structures have been around for as long as Mario has been Super, and today we are looking to find out if you can beat a Mario platformer without touching a single one. Today we answer the question, is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii without touching a single brick block? Our rules and objective are very simple today. We are simply trying to get to the final level and beat Bowser without allowing Mario to come into contact with any brick blocks. Now, a brick block is specifically this. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this. So just to be clear, we're only trying to avoid brick blocks, not literally every cube in the Mushroom Kingdom. But when it comes to brick blocks, we must avoid them like the plague. No walking on them, no jumping up into them, no sliding on the side of them. In short, no contact or collision with a brick block whatsoever. Should we make contact with a brick block, then we've got to die or start level over or something. Alright, with that established, let's start our journey. Alright, level 1-1. What have we got here? Well, it's pretty easy, just don't touch the bricks. No crazy difficult or even just regularly difficult sections here. Although, before we leave 1-1, let me mention that this level is a really easy place to get a propeller mushroom from, so if we need one in the future, this is where we can get it from. Now for 1-2. And with the first level being so easy, what could the second level possibly throw at us that might be considered a challenge? Oh, this section's actually kind of tricky. You've got to be very careful to not brush up against a brick when getting into this section in the first place. And then the Goombas, paired with low brick ceilings, can be tricky as there aren't many places where it's safe to stomp a Goomba. But with the right timing, it's certainly possible. And with that obstacle behind us, we should be in the clear now. Oh, that might be problematic. Well, we might be able to get over it with a propeller suit, or not. And just as an aside, what of these invisible blocks? Are they bricks that we have to avoid? I don't think so. As far as I'm aware, the common consensus, which is also supported by their depictions in games like Super Mario Maker, is that these invisible blocks are invisible question mark blocks, and therefore hitting them is not against our rules. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't answer how we get through this obstacle. We clearly can't go under or through it, and with the invisible blocks blocking us, we can't go over it either. At least not directly. This green pipe leads us into a little bonus area, which then has an exit through this yellow pipe. And when you go through this pipe with a propeller suit, you can immediately activate it and fly over. And with that obstacle conquered, surely our troubles with this level must be behind us. Oh, come on! If there is a jump arc that gets you through this gap, it would have to be ridiculously precise. Good thing we aren't trying to jump through this gap then. Using some friendly local Koopas and a fair bit of patience, we can whittle away at these bricks until the gap is much more manageable. So there we go, through the gap without ever touching it. And with that obstacle cleared, we are actually done with this level. On to 1-3. Now this level contains a lot of Hammer Bros standing atop brick structures. Luckily, with a fire flower that we got in the last level, they're laughably easy to get past. So that's that level done. Oh wait, we wanted to get the secret exit, didn't we? Alright, round 2, this time with the propeller suit. With the propeller suit, we can get this Yoshi without touching any brick blocks, and then use that Yoshi to get to the secret exit. Although, honestly, we probably could have gotten to the secret exit just by using the propeller suit. Oh well, whatever. As for getting past the Hammer Bros, yeah, nothing to worry about here. Now that we've gotten the secret exit, we can use the cannon it unlocked to skip all the way to World 5. 5-1 contains a few bricks overhead, but is really no problem. Next up, we have a choice between 5-2 and 5-3. And considering how tough the last underground level we attempted was, let's go with 5-3. This level isn't too bad. It has some parts that are mildly trickier than they would be in a normal playthrough, but nothing too serious. Now for 5 Tower, which is already looking pretty tough from the outset, as you are expected to use these brick blocks to platform up through the first part of the tower. We can subvert the bricks by using a propeller suit, but even then, that doesn't guarantee this part will be easy. Moving platforms, blind jumps, dry bones that if you run into from below will cause you to lose your propeller suit, all these factors add up to create the greatest execution challenge we've faced thus far. Luckily, after the checkpoint, things get much easier, and we can beat the rest of 5 Tower, no problem. Next up is 5-4, which barely has any brick blocks. 5 Ghost House has this room. Luckily, the route to get to the secret exit doesn't go through it, and is actually pretty easy to get through, thus unlocking the cannon to World 8. 8-1 has a few bricks that look kind of scary, although many of those bricks just end up getting destroyed by meteors anyway, or are otherwise quite jump-overable. 8-2's pinnacle of difficulty occurs here, where we face the Goombas on spinning platforms under bricks. The key here is patience while the Goombas are finite, and speed when they become infinite. After that, getting the secret exit is no issue, and we're off to 8-7. Which, honestly, I don't think contains a single brick. Oh well, on to 8 Airship. This is the only instance of bricks becoming even remotely relevant aboard this ship, and needless to say, but no trouble here. Which brings us to 8 Castle, the final level. Should we beat this level without touching a single brick, the challenge is won. Well, these opening platforms hardly look promising. Clearly there's no way to jump over this gap without utilizing a brick for support. Unless you use a propeller suit, which we did. And after that, the bricks really don't come up again. Aside from in the credits, that is. But if you hug the wall, Mario can easily dodge all of them. Meaning that it is possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii without touching a single brick block. New Super Mario Bros. Wii No Bricks was a pretty fun video to make. Surely a video along the same lines for New Super Mario Bros. U would be just as much of a fun, light project to work on. Oh no. Well, no turning back now. Is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe without touching a single brick block? Just like last time, our goal is to beat the game without touching any brick blocks. So these. Anything else, even if it is block-shaped, is fair game to touch. If we do happen to touch a brick block in our adventures, then the only valid course of option is seppuku, and starting the level over. With all that made clear, let's play some levels. Acorn Plains 1, Acorn Plains Way, actually has quite a few bricks in it. However, none of them are too difficult to dodge with just a bit of patience and caution. Or with a highly refined speedrun through the level, perfected by tons of times revisiting the level. Just like in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, this first level is a great place to get a very useful power-up. In this case, the Super Acorn. So yeah, we'll probably be coming back here quite a bit. Acorn Plains 2, Tilted Tunnel, does have a few tricky sections, but nothing that's a run-ender. The trickiest part for me was trying to remember where the secret exit actually was, but once that information was rediscovered, we were able to get said secret exit and even grab a fire flower on the way out. The secret exit leads us to Acorn Plains Blooper, Blooper's secret lair, which is a water level with bloopers, made considerably easier by the fire flower we acquired, and even easier by the fact that there are barely any brick blocks at all in this level. Beating that level takes us all the way to Soda Jungle 1, Jungle of the Giants, which features tons of giant bricks. A squirrel suit is a must to get past this level. Successfully getting through this level will require a fair amount of jumping from enemy to enemy, but I'd advise not getting too carried away with it. There are instances of regular ground which you can and should take advantage of. Just stay off the bricks and don't lose the squirrel suit. Next up, we encounter a fork between Soda Jungle 2 and Soda Jungle 3. I opted for 2, Bridge over Poisoned Waters, which was probably the wrong choice. This level has tons of bricks in it, some appearing in relatively small, easily managed clusters, and some spanning massive gaps that cause you to have to essentially make blind jumps. That being said, I actually beat the level first try, so with a squirrel suit at least, I guess it really can't be that bad. Next up is Snake Block Tower, and this is the starting screen. Well, this is a textbook impossible level if I've ever seen one. And unfortunately, we can't get through Soda Jungle without beating this level. However, we may be able to bypass Soda Jungle entirely. There are secret exits in Frosted Glacier and Sparkling Waters, which can take us all the way to Rock Candy Mines, the world after Soda Jungle. That does mean we'll have to get through all of Acorn Plains and Larry Cake Desert. Oh well, let's get to it. It isn't any more difficult to beat Tilted Tunnel normally than by using the secret exit, so no problems here. And while we're at it, let's catch Nabbit in Acorn Plains Way, because why not? Up next is Crushing Cog's Tower, which does have a fair number of bricks scattered throughout it, but none that are too difficult to avoid. And the rest of Acorn Plains is really no issue to get past. Getting through Layer Cake Desert is similarly simple. Next, we must choose if we'll be taking on Frosted Glacier or Sparkling Waters. I chose Sparkling Waters, which doesn't pose much of a challenge from a bricks perspective until we reach Giant Skewer Tower. To start with, this jump near the beginning of the level is completely impossible without a squirrel suit. With the squirrel suit, it's actually quite easy. After conquering that obstacle, this room looked like it might be difficult, but proved to be very easy. And that's the tower beaten. Next up is Haunted Shipwreck, in which basically all difficulty stemmed from trying to find the secret exit. Once you remember where it is, bricks don't really factor in all that much. Having taken the secret exit, we can skip all the way to Rock Candy Mines. But first, we need to beat this beanstalk level, which doesn't even have any brick blocks, so No problem. Now that is in opposition to the first level in Rock Candy Mines, Fuzzy Cliff Top, which does have bricks. Granted, none that are actually any difficult to avoid, but still. Things remain easy from a bricks perspective in Rock Candy Mines 2, Porcupuffer Falls. Grinding Stone Tower features this jump, which is mildly tricky. After that, we become Mini Mario and cautiously attack the rest of the castle. And since we're Mini Mario, we can even take the secret exit. That takes us to Rock Candy Mines 6, Thrilling Spine Coaster, which is a very brick-light level. A squirrel suit is particularly helpful when trying to get through Screwtop Tower. It really comes in handy on this part, and aside from that, it's just really nice to essentially skip past half the obstacles. Rock Candy Mines 7, Shifting Floor Cave, has exactly one section where bricks become a problem. Right here. Now, with a squirrel suit, this would be easy. However, I have a fire flower, which means we have to jump on this Koopa just right to get across. Certainly possible, honestly not the most difficult maneuver we've done up to this point, but it's certainly not difficult. One of the last obstacles in Roy's Conveyor Castle is quite tricky. Going on the lower path would be quite difficult in light of the bricks and low ceiling. The solution I found was squeezing between this conveyor belt and the upper platforms, and with that, we're off to Meringue Clouds. The first level of Meringue Clouds is called Land of Flying Blocks, and by blocks, they mean brick blocks. Tons of brick blocks, in fact. Now obviously, if you want even the slightest hope of getting through this level, we'll need a flying squirrel suit. Heck, maybe we can even try using the pea acorn. Nah, we might need it later. Let's see what we can get done with a regular squirrel suit. Dodging the bricks before getting on the cloud is pretty easy. Then the first set of bricks on the cloud can be dodged by a quick glide and burst up. Next up are these 3 C's, which to avoid, we wait for the cloud to pass about as far underneath them as possible, then jump off and glide underneath them, bursting back up onto the cloud once the obstacle has been overcome. We then duck underneath the next set of bricks, and be sure to time running to avoid this piranha plant. The next C is a tough squeeze, but can certainly be bounded over. Now, we get to relax a bit, as this screen wraps up, and if somehow we lost the squirrel suit through all of that, there is one in this question mark block. Now for screen 2. Our first obstacle of bricks looks absolutely massive, but can be cleared with a simple burst up from the squirrel suit. The tough part is landing in such a way that this piranha plant doesn't take a bite out of you. After the piranha plant, we duck through this section with the red ring. These next bricks form a gap that will once again be a very tight squeeze. Or it would be if we didn't just glide under this section entirely. Finally, the last brick obstacle we come across are some bricks surrounding a starcorn, which can once again be more or less nullified by gliding beneath it. Now just don't use the bricks for reaching the top of the flagpole, and this level is beaten. I found Meringue Clouds 2 Seesaw Shrooms to be a nice, easy respite after that first level. The fact that I was riding a Lakitu Cloud for like half the level may have also had something to do with it. Next up is Slide Lift Tower. This level has a recurring motif of Fire Bros standing on brick platforms. Most of them are fairly out of the way and don't cause us much trouble. That's not the case with this one. It's a tight squeeze to get by, but with some careful planning and patience, by waiting on the platform beneath for an opening where my bro isn't throwing fire, you can jump straight up and then burst up with the squirrel suit and thread that needle. After that, I was concerned going into the Kamek fight, because Mario Maker's mechanics had me thinking that the Kamek boss arena would be made almost entirely out of bricks. Luckily, like with some other boss fights that people may have been having similar thoughts about, that was not the case. Next up, we're angling for the secret exit in Spinning Spirit House, and bricks really don't play a factor here. The main challenge was just remembering where the secret exit is. Ludwig's Clockwork Castle has one instance of bricks seriously getting in the way. That instance would be here. The solution requires a bit of creativity, but is really quite simple. You just use this large dry bones as a trampoline. Then just beat the boss and move on to boarding the airship, which has a few bricks in the beginning of the level, but ultimately no bricks that are a real threat to us. Alright, we're in the home stretch now. Peach's Castle Level 1, Meteor Moat is an interesting case. You see, there are bricks all over this level, but if you wait long enough, most of them will be destroyed by incoming meteorites. But if you go with the waiting strategy, now you have to avoid these meteorites while you wait, all the while making sure you don't touch any bricks while you're waiting for them to be destroyed. It really was a tug of war trying to figure out if it was best to go fast or be patient. I did consider using our P acorn, but what if we really need it later? Let's just make do with normal power-ups. Whew. Certainly a rough introduction to the final world. I wonder if level 2 will hold a candle to this difficulty. Peach's Castle 2 Magma River Cruise has a lot of bricks overhead, which you'd think would make it fairly difficult, especially given the fact that you need to be, killing, i.e. jumping on enemies on your raft to stay ahead of the poison fog stuff. My experience, though, was that with a fire flower, you don't actually have to jump very much, which mostly negates the bricks overhead. Peach's Castle 3 Rising Tides of Lava has a few bricks that you might accidentally step on if you're not paying attention, but seeing as I was paying attention, this level didn't cause too much trouble. Peach's Castle Red Hot Elevator Ride features this obstacle. A solid ceiling of bricks, blocking the route we have to take. I can hardly believe it. After all we've been through, the rerouting, the tricky spots, the tight squeezes, this is where it all ends? Well, not if this P-switch has anything to say about it. Yes, hitting this P-switch turns all the bricks into coins, and of course coins are quite legal for us to touch. It's still a bit tricky and results in a bit of a close call, but we can get past this obstacle. Now for the final level. And you know what? We still have this P acorn, don't we? Well, it's the final level, might as well use it now. I mean, what else are we going to be waiting for? And you know, honestly, this is almost boring. Well, regardless, we got past the level, now for the boss fight, which doesn't contain a single brick. Which means that it is possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe without touching a single brick block. And what a journey it was. If you've been following this channel, then you know that recently we've tried beating a couple of new Super Mario Bros. Games without touching any brick blocks. Now I'd say it's time to give it a whirl in their hipper, younger, harder cousin, New Super Luigi U. That's right, today we seek the answer to the question, is it possible to beat New Super Luigi U Deluxe without touching a single brick block? The rules are exactly the same as the last two times we tried this challenge. We are trying to hit all the way through the game and beat the final boss without ever touching a brick block. You know, those block-shaped things in Mario games that are made of bricks. For our purposes today, that doesn't include things like question mark blocks, note blocks, or the like. We are trying to avoid brick blocks. With that established, let's play some levels. Our first level, Waddle Wing Warning, has a few instances of bricks that you might run into if you're careless. Good thing then that I'm not careless. Another thing to keep in mind about this level is that it's a wonderful place to get a squirrel suit, which will likely be quite useful going forward. Now for level 2, Crooked Cavern, which features this section, which I failed a lot at. It's just that this gap is such a tight squeeze that it seems near impossible to get through it without touching a brick. It can be done though. If you, with a squirrel suit, cling to the side of the gem while it's tilted up, then you should start sliding down as the gem starts to tilt down. That's a good thing. If you then burst up with the squirrel suit as soon as you fall off the gem, but before you touch the bricks, then you should be able to land safely beyond the bricks on the gem. So yay, we navigated the obstacle. But there's no time to relax, we've got a little over a minute on the clock and this next section to contend with. Not to worry though, this part really isn't that bad if you have a plan. My plan was, while the gem I'm standing on was tilting to the right, to jump up, burst, and cling to the other side of the gem we were clinging to earlier. Then we wait to slide down a bit and for the tilting to be in our favor, at which point clearing those last bricks is no trouble. Now all we need to do to be done with this level is find the secret exit, which you access by doing this. So we can't do this for obvious reasons. I guess we'll just have to go the long way around and take the normal exit, which luckily doesn't add any more roadblocks to this level. We may have to take the long way, but at least the levels immediately following Crooked Cavern have little to no brick-related issues. We next experience serious strife during Lemmy's Lights Out Castle. The expectation here is that you'd turn these coins into bricks, which you would then use to safely cross over these munchers. We'll be taking a different approach. That approach being just running across the munchers. Sure, you'll take some damage, but that's a small price to pay for not touching bricks. Also, this warp pipe secret area can help reduce how much damage you take. So that's Acorn Plains behind us now. Let's see what awaits in Layer Cake Desert. First up is Spike's Tumbling Desert, which admittedly has a lot of bricks. They are, however, easily avoided if you just stick to the low road and don't hit this P-switch. We then get the chance to catch Nabbit and, why not? We do get a P-acorn out of it and it's really not that hard. Next up, Underground Grolls has a few bricks on the ground that you certainly should be careful around, but I don't think I'd call them difficult to avoid. Then Wind-Up Tower doesn't, as far as I'm aware, contain a single brick. Now, the next level we're taking on should be quite interesting, as it's our next opportunity to take a big shortcut. Welcome to The Walls Have Eyes. From a brick's perspective, beating this level is pretty easy. Now how about that secret exit? Oh. That's how you access it? Again? Hey Nintendo, you do realize there are other ways to hide secrets, right? Okay. I guess we can't take this shortcut either. So we just have to beat the level normally, taking special care to avoid stepping on where those bricks were hidden just beneath the surface. Spinning sandstones doesn't have much to worry about from a brick's perspective, and just like that, we're at Wharton's Lava Block Castle. A level with a star coin surrounded by bricks, which is easily avoided, but also a level that has unseen bricks right below this sign, which can be easily avoided as long as you know they exist. We fight a brickless boss fight and then find ourselves having to make a choice: Sparkling Waters or Frosted Glacier. After much consideration, it was decided that Sparkling Waters would be the route we take. Huckett Beach Resort does contain bricks, but there is not much difficulty to be had in avoiding them. I don't think Urchin Reef Romp even has any bricks. Shish Kebab Tower does have a couple, but they are quite out of the way. The next stop on our journey is the secret exit of Haunted Cargo Hold, which finally does not require breaking through bricks to access. In fact, not only is getting this secret exit possible, it's really easy. To actually take advantage of that secret exit, we have to go through Beanstalk Jungle, which, as far as I can tell, does not contain a single brick. Alright, here we are at Rock Candy Mines. Our first level here, Mount Fuzzy, actually has a fair bit of obstacles to contend with. First being these bricks that you normally jump on to ascend the nearby cliff. These can be subverted by jumping from the question mark block, or if you're feeling fancy, spin jumping off the cliff itself. This part looks scary, but as long as you let yourself down gently and have good timing, it's really no big deal. Then this last jump is tough to make while both not touching bricks and not getting hit by a fuzzy. So what we do is choose the lesser of two evils and tank the fuzzy hits. Next up is Porcupuffer Cavern, which is comparatively much easier. Then comes Smashing Stone Tower, which, just generally speaking, has a lot of bricks in it. They of course aren't unmanageable, until we get to this floor, that is. As far as I see it, you have two options here: platform up using the bricks, or cannon through the bricks with a warp pipe. Neither of those options are very suitable for our purposes. I think for now our best course of action would be an attempt to skip this level entirely. If that's our way forward, then we've got our sights set on a certain secret exit in Soda Jungle. To get there, we'll have to start by properly playing through the rest of Sparkling Waters. First things first, beating Haunted Cargo Hold normally, which is just as easy as getting the secret exit. Next up is Waterspout Sprint, which features a few bricks, albeit none that are difficult to avoid. Then Dragon Eel Depths does have some bricks that require conscious thought to avoid. Luckily, the fact that it's a water level means that we have great flexibility when it comes to avoiding them. This ring that turns bricks into coins sure doesn't hurt either. Our next major challenge comes in the form of this underwater section of Larry's Trigger Happy Castle. What we have here is a lot of bricks paired with an obstacle that keeps you moving. It's certainly tricky, but certainly possible. You just have to keep your cool and dodge the numerous obstacles presented here. I really don't have a clever strategy or anything, just be good. Oh, and there's this part which looks tricky, but it's actually really easy if you just dive into the water. And with that, we're on our way to Soda Jungle, after we deal with this brickless airship, that is. The first proper level of Soda Jungle is Giant Swing-Along, which has some brick-based jumps that look pretty touchy. That being said, I got through this level on my first try, so I guess it really couldn't have been that bad. Heart of Bramble Woods also has a decent quantity of bricks. Good thing in this case, most of them are being stood on by enemies which we can jump on in order to bypass. A Stone Snake Tower has a few instances of bricks, although most of them are destroyed by grolls before they pose any real threat to us. Which brings us to Boo's favorite haunts, the level with the secret exit we so desperately need. And that secret exit is pretty easy to access. That exit brings us to Parabeetle Parade, which is not all that concerning from a social brickdancing perspective. That lets us get to Moraine Clouds, which is a world that doesn't give us any real trouble at all. How about that? Bowser Jr. Showdown, however, is a bit tricky. This first screen in particular has tons of bricks. Luckily for us, they can all be avoided by simply ducking underneath them. Just make sure you don't fall victim to the hand while avoiding the bricks. Magma Moat has a few big jumps where you have to thread the needle through some bricks. My advice with these would be confidence and timing. These are jumps where you have to pick your moment and full force go for it. If you do that, it should turn out alright. And as luck would have it, the next 3 levels do not pose any real threat to this challenge, which only leaves us with the final level to take on. And you know what? I've still got a pea acorn burning a hole in my pocket. Why not use it now? You know, it really just makes this final level almost boringly easy. Oh, and of course the boss fights don't contain any bricks, which means it is possible to beat New Super Luigi U Deluxe without touching a single brick block. There was some rerouting and a couple tricky bits, but we succeeded. New Super Mario Bros. We no bricks. New Super Mario Bros. U no bricks. New Super Luigi U no bricks. We've thus far attempted to beat every home console New Super Mario Bros. Game without touching any brick blocks. But let's not forget that this offshoot of the Mario series got its start on handhelds. Today we investigate the first game in hopes of discovering the following. Is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Without touching a single brick block? Now, just to be clear, today we are only seeking to avoid one specific type of block. Those would be the ones made of bricks. All the rest of the block-like structures are perfectly fine to touch. If we do end up touching a brick block, death is the only option. Before we start playing, there is one edge case I would like to address. That edge case would be invisible blocks. I've come to the determination, in large part through the representation in games like Super Mario Maker, that they are invisible question mark blocks. And since question mark blocks are legal for us to touch, that means invisible blocks are as well. Alright then, let's now jump into a new adventure. We start off this Mario game in the same way we start most 2D Mario games, by playing 1-1. In true 1-1 fashion, this level is primarily comprised of grassy ground with bricks floating above. This setup does lead this level to have loads of bricks in it, but doesn't necessarily cause the level to be all too difficult, as you can just walk underneath most of them. The enemies down there do make that more difficult, but if you have some patience, it's not much more difficult. With that level bested, it's time we advance to 1-2.
Here I go!
What? Since when is this how Mario levels start? Mandatory ground pound straight into bricks? It's as if the developers are spiting me specifically from all the way back in 2006. So yeah, when you play this level, Mario automatically starts it by ground pounding, which unavoidably leads to him touching these bricks. I can't believe it, it's only level 2 and the challenge may already be failed. And in what amounts to little more than a cutscene too. Is there really nothing we can do? Well, there might be a very sophisticated technique we can use to avert this unfortunate fate. Here's how it works. We select the level, and then start mashing literally all the buttons. Somehow, this actually works. Or you could just press up on the D-pad to cancel the ground pound like a civilized person. That works too. Anyway, this leads to us falling through the shaft normally, instead of ground pounding straight to our doom. This leaves us in a position where we can wall jump off the sides of the shaft, which is certainly better than the ground pound, but will not lead to our success in and of itself. We still need to devise a way to press forward through the level without touching those bricks down there. My first instinct was to try sliding against the right wall. No luck. How about wall jumping off the left wall? Nope. Let's try wall jumping off the right wall while holding right the whole time. That's close. Did we get by? Let's try slowing it down. I'm still not sure. Let's zoom in. A bit more. Just a touch more. Okay. I'm pretty sure there isn't any brick contact here. That means we can move on with our life and see the rest of this level. So, how is the rest of the level? There are tons of bricks in this level. Luckily, most of the bricks are overhead and can be avoided with patience and caution. Eventually we come to this structure, which at first glance seems like a huge obstacle, but is overcome fairly simply with just a green shell. After that obstacle, there are no more major barriers between us and the secret exit, which leads us straight to one tower. The main body of this level has barely any bricks in it. It does, however, have a secret exit that can give us access to a cannon that would take us all the way to World 5. Unfortunately, the path to that secret exit is blocked by what are nearly the only bricks in the whole level. Oh well, I guess we'll just have to continue through World 1 like normal. 1-4 starts out quite tricky, but is still quite possible, though eventually we must face this obstacle. When it comes to clearing it, even if you manage to pull off the difficult task of landing on this one block wide non-brick on a jump which places Mario out of frame for most of it, I'm not entirely convinced you're left in a position that allows you to garner enough momentum to get to the next safe haven anyway. If we can't make this jump, then we will be forced to touch a brick. There may be something we can try though. Let's try a power-up. They can be quite useful, and some of them, like the propeller mushroom and super acorn, are great at increasing our mobility. Unfortunately, those two power-ups have not been invented yet. The closest we have to that in this game is the mini mushroom. This may be the most useful power-up for us in this game. That usefulness comes in two forms. Firstly is the simple fact that the mini mushroom makes us mini. That gives us a smaller hitbox, which makes it easier to dodge bricks. Secondly, and more immediately, the mini mushroom gives us a much floatier jump that lets us jump further, which is beneficial for obvious reasons. Using the mini mushroom, we are able to clear this whole structure in one grand leap, jumping all the way from this Koopa. We then must act quickly and avoid getting hit by a Goomba. After clearing that jump, I would rather not have to do it again, so let's be very cautious throughout the rest of this level, which, from this point forward, doesn't have many difficult bricks. 1-5, a much more mushroom-focused level, is a fun, light, minimally difficult level. Until we get to these brick settings. You can't quite jump over them. You also can't go under them, because an attempt to do that leads to us bouncing onto these mushrooms underneath the bricks, which of course inevitably leads to us touching some of the bricks. This obstacle once again gives the mini mushroom a chance to shine, with its signature floaty jumps. Luckily that is the last obstacle in this level, so now we're on to one castle, which barely has any bricks in it. That means we can move on to World 2, which starts out pretty easily. 2-1 has a few bricks a bit above the ground. They don't give us too much trouble. 2-2 is a bit more difficult. There are a few instances of bricks with precise jumps to get past. Midway through the level, we come across this brick structure, which I don't see an obvious way to jump past. Good thing jumping isn't our only option. This is a level patrolled by a Lakitu, which happens to own a cloud, which we can commandeer with the help of our friendly Koopa. Soon after our flight over that last obstacle, we come across these bricks. The way I see it, there are two main ways to approach them. Either we try to leap over and then ground pound to cancel our momentum, or we try to thread the needle as Small Mario. I chose to go with the latter approach, which then led to a fairly easy conclusion to this level. 2-3 has very few bricks in it, so it's a very little issue to us. One thing worth noting, however, is that we do want to take the secret exit, which a mini mushroom helps us do. That brings us to 2A, which features these spin blocks, which are pretty fun, and occasionally launch us directly into bricks. We'll just run across the surface of the water instead. We also do a nice little wall jump maneuver to get to the secret exit, which allows us to use the World 5 cannon. The mini mushroom, which we have anyway because of the last level, is certainly useful for 5-1, on account of letting us stand on the deep snow without issues, and as such contributes to a relatively easy time getting through the level. 5-2 has a great deal of blocks, which are mostly overhead and not too hard for us to get around. This particular section looks scary, but if you have a mini mushroom, getting by it is as simple as holding down run. We then double back to enter the pipe and get the secret exit, which lets us bypass the World 5 tower. As such, our next level is 5-3, which is very slippery, features these weird snail unicorns, and is quite easy if you just take a leap of faith from here with the mini mushroom. 5. Ghost House is another level in which we would like to take the secret exit. To get to this exit, you'll want to hit an invisible question mark block that is suspended over a platform of bricks. Good thing we can still hit it off of a wall jump while using a mini mushroom. That secret exit grants us access to a cannon that shoots us all the way to World 8. 8-1 isn't super brick heavy. That being said, I made it way harder on myself than necessary by trying to go full sprint. Once I slowed down, it wasn't of much difficulty. 8-2 brings us to this room, which certainly doesn't look like it'll be a good time for a brickophobe like us. We can bypass it by simply going through a small pipe instead of a big pipe though, which makes this level overall quite trivial. 8 Tower has like 2 pairs of bricks in the whole level, and neither of them are difficult to avoid. 8-3 has considerably more bricks than the tower. Luckily, this level is a water level. Yes, I know, people generally hate water levels, but the fact of the matter is that in this game, water gives us the most freedom with our mobility, given the whole lessened impact of gravity thing. Point being, despite the larger quantity of bricks, and an eel-enforced time limit, H2O makes it a relatively easy level. 8-4 doesn't have the most difficult arrangement of bricks. Theoretically, this level shouldn't be too hard. If it wasn't for these guys, that is. The most annoying thing about these spiders is just the fact that their spawn points are relative to Mario, which means it's always a dynamic challenge. A dynamic challenge that, if we want to beat this game, we're going to have to overcome.
So nice.
Well, we did it. As it turns out, the fire flower is still pretty good. We'll certainly need to remember not to get too tunnel visioned by the mini mushroom in future levels. In 8 Castle, we don't even bother with the mini mushroom as it's a fairly easy level from a bricks perspective. That is very far from requiring the use of any mini mushroom features. And with 8 Castle cleared, we have a whole other half of a world to get through. Alright, that second half gives us an easy start with 8-5, which offers us no major obstacles. We then keep the ball rolling with 8-6 being similarly painless. 8-7 then shakes things up by starting like this. Not to worry, this speed bump is well within the mini mushroom's ability to overcome. Later on in the level, there are a couple places of note, such as this Fire Bro area, which I got past by killing the first and running under the bricks and second one. There's also this Sledge Bro, whose domain can be navigated by just waiting him out, then taking a large leap. Our next stop is 8-8, which is one of these raining meteor levels that the new Super Mario Bros. Games are so fond of. With it belonging to that genre of level, there are of course tropes that it is obliged and does in fact adhere to. The one that gives us particular trouble is the destructible blocks overhead, which of course decided to be bricks. Perhaps those two elements in isolation wouldn't be all too difficult. Unfortunately, they aren't in isolation. They have one more annoying roommate in this level. Cabals. The mere fact that they're enemies under bricks is annoying enough. But these guys have the added trait that if you try dispatching them with a fire flower, which would typically be a pretty good solution to this sort of problem, instead of just dying, they home in on you and then explode. In the end though, with a combination of fire flower patience and a few instances of just running for victory, we do eventually beat the level. Next is a tower, which should be easy since there are barely any bricks here. That being said, for some reason the snake block gave me some real trouble. Regardless, it's certainly possible. Which brings us to the final level. Bowser's Castle. This first room goes by without incident. Then we arrive in this chamber, in which we must flip the room over by hitting a switch that you get from hitting a brick block. And this is only the first of 3 instances in this level where you have to do that. Which of course leads to 3 necessary brick touches. The one silver lining here is while there are quite a few other bricks in this level that are quite tricky to maneuver around, all those other bricks with enough skill and a bit of mini mushroom magic can be avoided. Still, that doesn't change the fact that today we have found out that it is not possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Without touching a single brick block. Certainly not the outcome I was hoping for today. Well, after that huge demanding Zelda video, a return to one of my comfort zones seems appropriate. Hence the reason for today's topic. Is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. 2 without touching a single brick block? This is the 5th time we've tried this challenge on a New Super Mario Bros. Game, so if you really need the deep dive into the rules, watch one of those previous videos. Suffice to say that we are trying to beat the game, see the credits, that whole thing, all while requiring of ourselves the avoidance of blocks made of bricks. Specifically these, and nothing else. Alright then, onwards. The first level we face is unsurprisingly 1-1. This level's main bricky threat lies above our heads. The lion's share of these can be avoided by simply not jumping. But not all are that simple, for a few hover over note blocks, which for those unfamiliar are quite a bouncy form of block. Luckily, the bounce gained from these blocks when not adding to it with a jump of your own don't launch Mario anywhere near high enough to touch the bricks. And with that, we can safely leave 1-1 behind us. Next up is 1-2, and if history is anything to go by, this should be an interesting one. The level opens in a very familiar way. Last time we saw this sort of entry, it was followed up with the narrowest possible margin of error. This time though, we get a bit luckier, since if we don't move, we land not on bricks, but on a POW block. From here, a somewhat tight but nowhere near pixel-perfect jump grants us a way past the bricks that border the POW block. The next obstacle we face is this brick structure. It at first seems impassable, until we throw a shell at one of those POW blocks, which destroys a good number of the bricks, while turning the rest in its range into empty blocks. Now under normal circumstances, empty blocks are perfectly fine for us to touch, whether they be naturally occurring or as a result of hitting a question mark block. These ones, however, are produced from the ashes of brick blocks. So just to be safe, I will not touch any empty blocks that were previously brick blocks. Luckily, that doesn't include this one that was a POW block, from which we can throw another shell into yet another POW block to clear a way through the rest of the obstacle. Things aren't too bad until we reach this very tight section just before the checkpoint flag. Like I said, it's a very tight space, but even as large Mario, it can be successfully navigated with a bit of precision and crouch jumping. Then after the checkpoint, we are greeted by this Koopa Fort, which is of course made of bricks. This is an obstacle that no Mario can clear in a single bound, and as far as I can tell, there are no places uncorrupted by bricks for a heroic plumber to stage a second jump from on this entire structure. And with this manifestation of failure, this roadblock given brick and mortar form, Mario can't take it, and instead throws himself into the abyss. But what's this? It seems the death of Mario was part of the plan all along. He's back and stronger than ever. Behold the might of Mario the White Raccoon. Yes, this is one of those games where if you die a bunch in a level, they give you an invincibility power-up. Here it's the Gold Super Leaf, which gives Mario an OP version of the Raccoon power-up. And honestly, just a regular one would have been perfectly fine, but I don't think you can actually get one until 1.3, so we're stuck with the Super version. What it does for us is allow us to slow our descent enough to clear the fort, which is honestly the last tough obstacle before the end of the level. Next up is 1.3, the natural home of the Super Leaf, and as such an extremely easy level. Our next encounter is with the World 1 Tower, which yields us access to its secret exit with minimal brick-based difficulty. We then face the World 1 Cannon, which is also a very brick-light experience, ushering us into World Mushroom. Mushroom 1 then proves to be a level that contains bricks. That's for sure, though not in any even remotely close to threatening configurations. We follow that up with Mushroom 2, an extremely easy underwater level. No issues here. Mushroom Ghost House is a generally brick-light level, though I did need to play it twice since I forgot to get the secret exits the first time through. That naturally brings us to Mushroom B, and let me tell you, this one's a wee bit more interesting. If I had to describe the baseline premise of this level in a single phrase, I would likely say, it's a vertically auto-scrolling level wherein you must advance by climbing up vines emerging from brick blocks. Like I said, much more interesting. Luckily for us though, the game is actually on our side here. You see, it seems to really not want us to directly touch these brick blocks, since it keeps giving us lifelines every time we need to activate one. Its go-to is POW blocks, but Koopa shells aren't unheard of either. So yes, while the level looked quite intimidating, it's actually a lot more accommodating than it first lets on. That victory allows us to pass to Mushroom Cannon, which, come to think of it, sounds like it should be a Mario Kart track. Not that that's a relevant comment. What is relevant is the lack of bricks on display in this level. Then, Flower 1 and Flower Ghost House's secret exit are extremely simple and also the wrong way to go. What we really wanted was Flower 1's secret exit, into Flower A followed by Flower Cannon, none of which pose a major brick-related issue. The next thing standing in our way is 6-1, the standard meteors falling on bricks level. Luckily for us, the meteors do a pretty good job at clearing our path in the first half of the level, and bricks are barely present in the second half. Completion of that level opens a path to the 6th Ghost House, which features this moment where you have to activate a switch right next to some bricks. It seems to be a pretty tight squeeze, and I think I know just the power-up to deal with something like this. It's time to find ourselves a mini mushroom. I think the easiest level to get to that contains a mini mushroom would be Flower 3, so let's get on that. Flower Ghost House's regular exit is pretty easy. It's then followed by Flower 2, which has really only one instance of difficult bricks, which would be this golden brick block, which has been incessantly following us around for several levels now. It's really annoying, but nevertheless, even that isn't too difficult to avoid. Then comes Flower 3 itself, which is no problem from a bricks perspective, and as previously stated, grants us that mini mushroom we're after. We are now to take that mini mushroom to 6th Ghost House, where it allows us to thread the needle on the switch as well as squeeze through this gap later in the level. Thank you, smallness. Then we head to 6-2, a level that puts nearly all of its bricks up high where you aren't really in any danger of making contact with them during normal play. Next up is 6-3, a traditional cave level, which means loads of bricks. I decided to be Raccoon Mario for this one, as his slow descent makes bounding over some of these brick formations a piece of cake. It is important to remember, though, that when the bricks are overhead, sometimes the best course of action is to not jump at all, and sometimes the best course of action is to crouch jump. Then comes 6 Tower, where bricks don't really factor into the challenge at all, and the boss is honestly absurdly easy. How did this make the cut as a final world boss exactly? Whatever. Then comes 6-4, which is absolutely littered with ghosts. You'll notice, those aren't bricks, and therefore this level is no issue to us. It's then followed by 6-5, which I guess does have some bricks you could theoretically touch. Good thing we're dealing with reality and not theory. In practice, it's not even close to a threat. And finally, calling 6 Castle easy might be selling it a bit short, but calling it Brick Light would be right on the money. That Brick Light descriptor is accurate from the start of the level all the way to the end of the boss fight, which means now it's time to let those credits roll, and a good thing it's coins they're shooting at us and not bricks. So, what have we learned today? It is possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. 2 without touching a single brick block. And honestly, I think this may have been the easiest of these no-brick challenges. In the Mushroom Kingdom, bricks are the material of choice in construction. You'd have to be a total masochist to try to live your life without ever touching any there. But Super Mario Bros. Wonder doesn't take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. I wonder then, how such a challenge might go here. Is it possible to beat Super Mario Bros. Wonder without touching a single brick block? The rules of our challenge are quite simple. We're aiming to beat the game without touching brick blocks specifically. That means blocks that are made of bricks. Other types of blocks, like question mark blocks, note blocks, invisible blocks, and whatever. These things are all fine to touch. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Flower Kingdom starts off pretty tricky with this obstacle. But it looks a lot harder than it actually is. A crouch jump can get you through it just fine. Later on, we can become an elephant, which goes alright here, since there really aren't any bricks to be worried about through the rest of the level, but it's honestly probably not going to be our go-to power-up going forward, since in this challenge, expanding our hitbox isn't particularly beneficial. But yeah, we carry on through World 1 and find that there's no real challenges here after the bricks in the first level. Sure, bricks exist in the other levels, but they're almost always up out of the way, and therefore very easy to dodge. Our first foray into the Petal Isles starts with a bit more friction. We literally can't get the Dolphin Kick badge since the level that unlocks it is so intent on demonstrating the Dolphin Kick's ability to break bricks. We obviously can't use it for such purposes, so I guess we'll be going on without it. We're definitely missing out a bit in the next couple levels by not having the Dolphin Kick and not being able to touch bricks, but they're certainly possible nonetheless. That brings us to World 2. Where we start by breezing through the snow block-filled level of Pokebeat Pass, and the brickless wall climb jump 2, before facing Condarts Away. This level was terrible back in our No Coins challenge, and let me tell you, today it's arguably worse. Now you may think that these bricks at the beginning look a lot scarier than they actually are, since the Condarts can just destroy them for us, right? Well, there's just one problem with that theory. These Condarts are basically only activated once you step onto the blocks in question. So yeah, that's less than ideal. But luckily for us, this game gives us incredible mobility options thanks to its badge system. Specifically in this case, we can spin jump into a parachute cap in order to clear the bricks. Things go a lot more smoothly until we reach this brick bridge. Clearing it in one jump doesn't seem to be an option here, but luckily you don't have to thanks to this Koopa, and with that, Condart's Away is cleared. And bricks aren't really relevant again until cruising with linking lifts, which I still feel like I must be playing wrong. Anyway, this jump here doesn't have any land for you to land on, aside from brick blocks. That's a problem. Unless you play the level properly. That means actually activating the linking lifts so that they sneak under the bricks while you wait for them on an unactivated linking lift. Then, once you've waited long enough, go ahead and glide over onto the newly present ground. And that's the last time bricks are an issue in World 2. That means it's time to visit the Petal Isles again, and even get another chance to obtain the Dolphin Kick badge. Or not. I guess I'm just never going to learn how to swim properly, am I? But no matter, the rest of the Petal Isles are pretty easy. World 3 is also nothing to write home about, in spite of the couple of instances of bricks that require at least some amount of effort to avoid. The solution to get past the bricks in this crouching high jump challenge is, ironically enough, to not use the crouching high jump, and to be small. Sun-baked skirmish is mostly fine, but these snakes can be a bit annoying since they dwell on bricks. It's nothing throwing some pots around can't fix, though. Secrets of Sheva Mansion is no problem, but we can't do anything with these bricks at the end of the level, unfortunately. I got past some more easy levels before trying out Break Time Treasure Vault, which, definitely isn't possible. But no matter, we can obtain our Wonder Seeds from elsewhere, and wrapping up World 4 is no problem. We enjoy a brick-free existence on our way to World 5, where we're faced with no meaningful bricks. Until ruins. Here we have to hit a question mark block positioned pretty annoyingly between some brick blocks. Luckily, this local conch is willing to do the job for us. And then the goo helps us steer clear of the bricks once we actually grab the Wonder Flower. Then we can similarly rely on a conch to get us past these bricks, hitching a ride on them. And that's the last real obstacle in World 5. Now for World 6. Oh, but first, Muncher Fields actually has a fair bit of bricks in it, but in general, the parachute cap is more than sufficient to allow us to glide over our worries here. One of the first levels I try in World 6 is Search Party Item Park, which, clearly isn't happening. Where the Rumbas Rule has a lot of bricks, but there's also no shortage of enemies and precariously balanced pillars willing to break them for you, so by the time we get to them, they're really not much of an issue. Next up, this airship level is extremely easy, and it unlocks quite a few other levels for us to try, like Hot Hot Hot, where the floating high jump badge can be used to clear these pillars of bricks quite safely. Our next difficulty is this KO Arena. This is because of the last section, where many spikes have positioned themselves on bricks. This one in particular is a nightmare to reach. The solution is to simply have a bubble flower when you reach this final leg. If you have one of those, it's really not too bad since it can shoot through the brick blocks. And that is the last major difficulty we face in World 6. Now it's on to the Bowser Castle. Here the first two levels go by without issue, and then we get to evade the Seeker Bold Bills, where the only way to progress past this pipe is to hit a brick block. Well, that's an anticlimactic way to end the challenge. Though, I do have one idea which may just work. There we go. Thank you, Homing Bullet Bill. Of course, now we have to cross this mess of bricks. We start by luring this homing bullet onto the question mark block, then from there it serves as a very nice makeshift platform to help us get to the warp pipe. But things don't get much easier from there. Towards the end of the level, we're faced with bigger homing bullet bills, which we have to rely upon to break large brick structures for us to be able to gain passage. Then, finally, to cross this brick bridge, you've just quite frankly gotta be bold. And that is the last major brick-based obstacle in the game. The next 2 levels are quite brick deficient, and the final boss fight has no bricks in it whatsoever. Meaning that it is possible to beat Super Mario Bros. Wonder without touching a single brick block. Hope you enjoyed this video. For me, it served as a nice, more relaxing reprieve after going through the much more difficult No Coins challenge, which, if you haven't seen, you really should. It was quite good. You'll probably also want to subscribe so you can be notified of my future challenges. Or heck, just check out the channel in general. There's loads of other challenges here for you to enjoy.